Hi, my name is Heather Quinn, and I'm part of cohort 7 for the Yoga Fit Yoga Therapy track. And we are going to do a pranayama exercise today. So, one of the things that we want to do is start to coordinate our breathing with our pelvic floor. And so, what happens with the diaphragm, when you inhale, the diaphragm decreases or descends, and then it ascends as you exhale. And so, this motion of the diaphragm allows there to be an opening up of the lungs and the ribs. Now, what also happens when this happens is we have the pelvic floor underneath it. So, this diaphragm's moving a little bit like a piston, and then it's basically kind of jamming into the pelvic floor. Maybe not that low, but so what we want is as we inhale, we want the pelvic floor to move just a little bit. And then as we exhale, it moves back up. And so, like I said, this diaphragm is moving like a piston, but the pelvic floor is moving like a butterfly. So just a little bit of fluttering. So we're going to try to focus our breath on our diaphragm and the lower ribs. And at the same time, we're going to try to feel into the movement of the diaphragm and the pelvic floor moving in conjunction. So the diaphragm moving a lot, pelvic floor is just fluttering a little bit. We'll need a little bit of help in this exercise. So I have a yoga chair to my left here, and I have a bolster behind me, and they'll both be useful during this exercise. So let's get started. We are going to first get ready for our first exercise. So we're going to come down over by our chairs and bring our feet up. And then we're going to use our arms to let us lower down onto the ground gently. So from this position, we're going to try to scoot so that our hips are underneath the knees as much as we can. And then we're going to open up the knees so that they're shoulder width apart. And then we're going to open up the feet until they're hips width apart, which is really short. So we get this sort of diamond shape with the legs. What we're going to do is just start to breathe into this position. So we want to feel on the inhale that diaphragm descending and then ascending as we exhale. So let's just start there. Now maybe laying the hands on the stomach and the lower ribs, let's start to feel into the motion of the pelvic floor. So on the inhale, we feel just a slight movement downward. And then as we exhale, it releases. And this is really subtle motions of the body. We're going to just let the body relax. Let the legs feel heavy. And let the mind and the emotions start to calm so that we can try to tune into this fluttering motion of the pelvic floor. And if the mind starts to wander, we just continue to focus on the breath. Now let's just rest for a moment, breathing like we normally do. Maybe moving the hands off to the side, letting the knees open a little bit more. For our next version of this breathing pose, you will have the opportunity to continue to stay where we are. But if you would like to, you can move backwards. So if you would like to move backwards, we're just scooching back until we can feel the feet on the edge of the floor. And so I don't have a really great amount of pressure that I can put on the chair without it sliding back. So I'm very carefully placing my feet on the edge of the chair. We want the knees to still be shoulder width apart. We want the feet to be hips width apart. We just want to feel into the feet. So I think of this as the feet have one of the other arches of the body besides the pelvic floor. And we're just going to start that coordination of the pelvic floor and the diaphragm as we feel into the feet. And we do this because a lot of times what we do is we start to roll the legs out, we roll the feet out. What we want to do is feel both feet flat onto the chair. Letting the upper body relax. Making certain we aren't holding any tension in our body as we do this. Just trying to feel into the motion of the breath, the firmness of our feet, the movement of the pelvic floor. And then we'll just relax, maybe bringing the feet up higher on the chair, letting the knees splay a little bit, letting the upper body relax. Breathing naturally. And now we'll release the feet from the chair. We're going to go into our final pose. To get there, we'll need to come into first a tabletop. So let's roll carefully onto our side and then using our hands to help bring the torso up. And here's where we want to get our bolster. You might also want a block, or I have my Zafu here, depending on how this feels. We're going to do a restorative child's pose. So we have our knees on both sides of the bolster, and then how you might use a block or a Zafu is to raise the hips if this is uncomfortable on the knees. So we'll just snug this bolster up and then use our hands to help bring our torso down. So you can rest with your head to the side. You can, if you're like me, take your glasses off. You can bring your head straight down. But the legs are essentially in the same formation as they were before. The knees are wide, the feet are about hips width apart. And just let's relax for a moment, allowing the upper body to relax. And then breathe into the torso. So it feels a little different from this different angle. And you're welcome to just allow yourselves to breathe into that difference, determining ways to make this more comfortable. Maybe opening up the back of the body, the torso, with more breathing through the back side of the ribs. Trying to feel into that motion of the pelvic floor again. And as we're ready, using our hands to bring us back up into a tabletop position, maybe sliding the bolster out of the way, grabbing your glasses if you took them off. Let's just do a little bit of motion through the body. Just allow any tension to release. And then as we're ready, we're going to come into a comfortable seated position. Resting for a moment here. We'll bring our hands up to heart center, connecting to our hearts. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you, and that means namaste. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. Have a good day.